Yes, I have a very exciting guest today. Her name is Lindsay Liu, and she is the organizer of Tokyo Design, as well as a UX designer for a well-known FinTech company. Lindsay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nee. I'm so happy to join and I'm so happy to share about my experience and talk with you.
Yeah, I'm super excited to chat to you too. One of my good friends actually met you at a networking event, and he was talking to you about the podcast, and he said that you would be a great person to chat to. So I'm super excited to dive into some of the topics today. But before we get into that, what I want to know about you is your story.
Long story short, I came to Japan 6 years ago. I was in the transition period, figuring out what career I want to pursue because my background is architecture. And when I landed in Tokyo, I realized I want to do something regarding technology, the IT sector. So I registered the full stack web development bootcamp. From there, I gained some knowledge about the coding and also the UX design. And finally, I landed my job as a UX designer. So this
Mm.
is how I pivot from architecture to UX design.
Yeah, it seems like that's a very like common path for some architects, right? That maybe I don't know whether it be the industry is too competitive or like something like is just maybe outdated or something. They want to get into tech somehow, and this UX design path seems to be one that's available.
Yeah, it came just like very natural to me because actually I was applying my master degree for architecture or landscape,
Mhm.
but somehow it just happened. So I feel like this is a signal I got from the outside world. I need to be the product designer in IT sector. Yeah.
Awesome. So you went from designing buildings to designing actual like software products.
Yeah, yeah.
How has that transition been for you? Were there any challenges in doing that when you got into it?
Yeah, good question. So I think probably people living lined up in Japan would know there's a buzzword back in 5 or 6 years. It's like a DX.
Mm,
So I happened to be in that DX trend. And when I first pivoted to UX and product design, a lot of companies, they are not familiar with UX and they didn't know the role the UX designer could play.
mm,
And also, I didn't actually have any real world experience. So I learned a lot from the YouTube or like any podcast from
mm,
Silicon Valley. Um, and then I tried to apply this knowledge into the real world. So I would
mm.
say it was hard time because nobody actually tell you how to do. You don't have the guidebook. So you figure
Mhm.
out by yourself with a lot of very good resources from the internet.
UX design it's not really a major in university, right? It's not something
That's
that
true.
people major in. It's something that you maybe study design, but then fall into that path, right? So,
Yeah.
how do you approach design? What is, I guess, your philosophy of, UX design?
I think for me it's always like the problem driven. Like what kind of problem you're gonna solve. It's just like an architect, right? You design the space, you create the space for your client, for the user who live in that space. And for the software, this is a piece of the space you create. The user can complete the task and the user can enjoy a moment when they interacted with the product. So I always be the problem driven. Like what's the problem and what kind of task you would like the user to complete, and what kind of feeling, what kind of emotion you want to trigger when they interact with this piece of software.
How do you guess get to those realizations? I mean, I know that obviously we need to be interviewing the customers, right? How close are you to the customers and how do you go about finding out their needs?
So I would say there were two different periods. The first period, very early in my career, I don't have the chance. I didn't have the chance to talk to the clients.
Mm,
The only thing I can got is from the company consultants because they talk to the client
hmm
very often, and I get this secondhand information from the consultant. So I didn't actually been close with the my client, my user. But
hmm
the second phase is like more and more people will know the importance of the role of UX designer, and I started doing more user interview and this session feedback session with the user. And there's a one famous UX researcher, Teresa. He's also the product lead. She wrote a book about like a discovery, like user discovery, which she automated this user interview session. like every week. And
Mm.
pretty much I adopted the same strategy when it comes to my previous job. I talked to the user and we did this like a user interview, and then we used like a user interview snapshots to
Mm.
put this quick insights in the FigJam. And every time with the stakeholder, they need to know what is a user request and what is their needs pinpoints. We look at that snapshot.
Like, how do you feel the information, for example, coming from like a third party affects like the actual end product? Because if you don't get to actually speak to the customers, it can be kind of hard. Because communication, for me at least, many others, I think,
Yeah.
is it's not just the words that they say, it's also like the way they react when they
Yeah,
see something.
yeah.
How valuable is that to have that firsthand experience?
Yeah, I think it's like people would have a different interpretation. And
Hmm.
also when you have this direct interview session with users sometime, I might not be able to express what they really want. And
Hmm.
especially when your client, when your user are Japanese user, because of culture difference, sometimes they don't say things directly, straightforwardly. And
Hmm.
you have to really figure out their intention. Like hona tademai, this is how like the Japanese culture informed us, right? So this is something I need to make sure there's no bias.
Hmm.
And we have to really have this like a follow-up questionnaire to the user because sometimes when they say during the user interview, not necessarily align with what they answer in the follow-up questionnaire or survey.
Oh, wow.
So this is always my recommendation, and we need the extra step to ensure what they say is what they mean.
Wow, that is really hard. I heard that in Japan you have to become kind of like a mind reader sometimes because like not everything is, given out in their words. They kind of like they imply a lot within their language and culture.
Yeah.
So I can
And
imagine.
also, I think it's just because the people, the user, you're creating this product, you're creating this piece of software for, have
Mhm.
this mindset. So when you are doing this creation, when you're optimizing the product, you also need to take this into consideration
Mhm.
because the mental model definitely would impact how the user want to interact, use your product.
I think that it's super hard, to, like build something truly what a customer wants. It takes a lot of like iterations and things
Yeah.
like that. How have you, I guess, built processes to go about that whole, design life cycle and product development life cycle?
Yeah, this is a good question. So honestly, as we know, there are a lot of like product manager, they're really good at to doing the product development cycle. But as for the designer, the question is like how we can support, like how we can to synthesize all this good energy, right?
Hmm.
And my perspective is that when the product manager they first like drafted the PRD, you definitely wanted to have the perspective from the designer
Hmm.
because the designer has a expertise in the user-centered design and they have better knowledge about what the user actually want.
Hmm.
So the back and forth conversation before the product manager to know down the PRD is of importance. And
Hmm.
also the frequent conversation with your stakeholder, not only the product manager, but also the engineer, because a lot of engineer actually they have the UX expertise when they have this more experience working with the designer. So they can provide the technical perspective, but also they will say, okay, this kind of interaction actually make more sense to the user. So
Mm.
I would say in the early phase, when you started building up your product, you definitely need this kind of conversation with different stakeholder. And then we we all of us to nail down the problem and to nail down the priority instead of just like a one person. It dictates all this priority and the details, the feature requirements.
I heard that, UX designers actually should be in the room when they're getting the business requirements from like the sales side or the marketing
Yeah,
side, right?
yeah,
Because the closer you are to that true understanding, I think is better for the whole outcome. And
yeah.
it goes back to also design thinking, right? Design thinking is a framework for problem solving that not a lot of people really know about, but I'm wondering if you could shed some light into design thinking and if you use it in your practice, yeah.
I think design thinking is not exclusive to designer. Like
Mm.
everyone has this design thinking skill. But one thing I would say differentiate the designer with the non designer in terms of the design thinking is how you interpret as user list in the pixel level and user flow level.
Mm,
For example, when we design a product, usually it's not from scratch. When you are in the corporation, it's more like optimize something. Like you already have this feature and you optimize.
mm,
It's not 0 to 1, but it's more like the 1 to 10 or 10 to 100. And it comes to this optimization, the design thinking goes to, okay, we have so many different factors need to orchestrate the
mhm,
business goal and the technical constraints. Of course, we have technical constraints. And also the other stakeholder, like the sales, the customer success team's perspective, like they have their very detailed require. For example, this button should be blue, this button should be red. Sometimes you will receive this request from the other stakeholder. And the design thinking plays a role is that what would be the optimal visual presentation
mhm,
when you receive the very detailed requests to change the color from the other stakeholder, and
mhm,
how you can make this rational
mhm,
to the other stakeholder, and then the final decision is not from you or you convince the other stakeholder, but is that all of you, all of the team, they figure out this should be the best one because you influence people to think. So
mhm.
I think this is the best way that the UX designer or product designer should do. You influence the stakeholder in your company to think more about the user centric or the visual harmony,
Yeah.
because this is your responsibility to make that impact in the organization. Otherwise, people will not know why we don't need to change the button to red.
Well, talk to me a little bit about some of those challenges that you've had with that, because you're dealing with people who are maybe technical, right? They're very data
Yeah,
analytical, business folks who are, very money like oriented. They're like worried about the business side. Design, you're more thinking from like a creative and also like process, like experience driven
yeah.
mindset. So how do you balance that in the product team?
Yeah, so in my previous job, we got a lot of like as a designer, got a lot of very detailed requests from different teams about changing the visual or to adding the feature, right? But in that sense, you have always to ask twice, like why we need, right? What is the reason behind? And sometimes it will give you the reason that because the user just complain, it's not prominent, the
Mhm,
button is not prominent, right?
mhm,
And of course you can make the button bigger or change the color, like vibrant color, so that the user will know this is a button to do something. But as a designer, you will think, if this is a problem about button, or this is a problem about user don't fully understand the flow, so they don't know this is action they need to take, so they don't
mm,
click the CDA, right? So you always need to help, not help, but support other stakeholder to think twice instead
mm,
of just to finding the reason why the user uh, don't see the button, but you will see if the CDA makes sense in that whole flow, or we need to advance that screen, or maybe just to switch different screen.
mm.
And I always will have this conversation with my stakeholder whenever they give me this very detailed request about change the button or make the font size bigger.
Right.
Yeah, and after that, always they will say, "Oh, this is really good conversation because we decided like how we could optimize the whole flow instead of just to change the color."
Yeah, exactly. You come to that consensus together because, you ask the right questions to really think, is this really necessary? What if
Yeah.
we see from this perspective, seeing those type of things? That's very, very interesting because I always figure like developers are very like they only care about, kind of like the technology bit, but not necessarily how things look. Maybe front end developers are closer to you guys
Yeah,
and
and also I think the it's very interesting because I participate a lot of hackathon. So I
Hmm,
work really close with the engineer, especially when there's like a AI copilot, and I can see literally how the engineer today to work on this code.
Hmm.
And I also have better understanding on what would be the real constraints because I have that kind of tech knowledge. When you speak their language, it's easier just to convince them, or not convince them, but just have a good conversation, discussion on certain things.
100%. It makes you a more well-rounded designer as well to be able to have those discussions and understand what's going on and things like
Yeah.
that.
And
Absolutely.
also, I really appreciate a lot of engineer. They always say things straightforwardly.
Mm.
Yeah, so you would definitely know like what is their concern. Even sometimes you don't think that makes sense, but you still appreciate it seems things in a very straightforward way so that you can have the conversation with them directly and just time saving.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. They don't like to waste time. They just want to get back to coding for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly.
really cool. So you had talked briefly about, taking a product that's already existing and making it from instead of 0 to 1, 1 to 10. But have you ever actually worked on a product from 0 to 1 before? And if you did, which one do you prefer better?
Yeah, I did. And also I have some like a personal endeavor to work the product from 0 to 1 from scratch.
Mm.
I would say in today's world it's much easier because everyone know vibe coding, this buzzword, and you have a lot of the different AI tools which can help you to make a product definitely in an hour or maybe less than an hour.
Mhm.
And in that sense, I would say in today, it definitely way, way, way easier compared with you optimize from the existing product.
Mhm.
Because existing product, you have to do a lot of the heavy lifting, need to check the data, like how the user actually use a different feature. And you need to talk with all the stakeholder, as I said, the communication. And that takes time, right? And from 0 to 1, the only thing you need to do is you understand the potential user and what kind of product you want to build.
Mhm.
And then you can just quickly iterate on the vibe coding tool because you don't have that like a base. So you can do whatever you want. But
Mhm.
still, when the product needs to release, you still need to go through that process because you need to have a lot of validation session. But just
Yep.
answer your question from 0 to 1 to create something you call product. That'd be fast. But the problem is that probably the quality of the 1 hour vibe coding thing is not good enough to be called as product.
No, definitely not. Yeah, especially yeah. Like nowadays, there's so many different vibe coding things with like Lovable,
Yeah.
Replit. There's so many tools out there now that are being used, and it's like, what? How do you design it afterwards? If you don't have those design skills, or you don't have a designer working with you, like how do you get in there and make it look better, or how do just typing? I don't think you can really take that design like in your
Yeah, yeah.
mind and make it into an application. Have you had to deal with some of these things before, or how would you recommend people go about that process?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, instead of just to directly go to this vibe coding tool, I would spend a lot of time actually to narrow down sort of like a PRD, like what kind of feature, what kind of product, and what kind of user. This process, I often talk to Claude because I
Mhm.
feel like Claude has very powerful feature in terms of to thinking about the product.
Mm.
And definitely, I would spend more than 3 or 4 hours just continue
Mhm.
or like having a talk with Claude until maximize the conversation. And then I would put all the thing together and go to the vibe coding tool like Lovable. And then from there, they just created the first draft in 3 minutes. And then you will
Well,
see the whole interface and user flow. It's a magic. It worked like a charm. But
mhm.
still, I would say the heavy lifting goes to the PRD, goes to the product strategy and thinking points instead of just to creating the visual.
If you're looking for a curated list of some of the world's best podcasts, then definitely check out this newsletter called Podcast Today. It has topics ranging from AI, personal health, and even comedy. So sign up today and you'll get a curated list sent to your email box every single day. How did you, I guess, go about getting those skills to like understand how a PRD should be structured? Is it just through conversations with PMs, or like did you do your own type of learning? Because
Yeah,
maybe a lot of designers might not have that ability to put a whole PRD together.
yeah, because my previous job gave me the chance to work as interim product manager for a while.
Oh,
So
cool.
I I listened to a lot because I didn't have that background. So back then I listened to a lot of the podcasts, like a Nanny's podcast, and also this product management crash course I watched a lot in the YouTube channel and some podcasts by this product needs and the words. And that definitely helped me to thinking about the product as a whole instead of just the user flow or interaction. But also, I would say, in today's words, a UX designer actually take a lot of responsibility as product manager.
Mm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because if you working in the corporation, like my current one, is
Hmm.
from the bottom to top.
Hmm.
So you allow the designer to really look into the problem,
Hmm.
and that's problem solving process as pretty much like a product manager. And also, if you have the technical background, and you really can speak the engineer's language,
Right.
you already take some responsibility as a product manager.
Right. No, and I also heard that a lot of, startups especially, they don't have a PM. They have a designer maybe who acts like a PM because they're talking to the users and they're talking to the devs, and they're kind of that in between position. So product management is another one of those careers that you can't major in university. So it's kind of like something people fall into or develop into, right?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
do
exactly.
you see yourself potentially going in that route later on?
I think I already did that in my first job. So it's very likely. And also, as I mentioned, I participated a lot of hackathon in the previous 6 months. I started the hackathon journey back in last year end.
Mhm.
And when you are doing the hackathon project, you're pretty much working as a product manager and also designer.
Mm. So what are some hackathons in Tokyo that you've taken part of? I did one last year called Techstar Startup Weekend. It was really fun. But are there any others that you've can?
Yeah, I the very first one I participated in is the one hosted by Inception Studio. And then the Builders Weekend this year, and a lot of the like small hacks and one day hackathon hosted by the biggest hackathon community called Melting Hack.
Okay.
So yeah, so I usually just go with my engineer friend or some other friend and non-technical background because
Mhm.
today we have this web coding tool. Not necessarily you have to really code by yourself,
Right.
as long as you can read the codes, so you
Right.
can make the product.
Well, no, now it's great because now hackathons I think will be more accessible to everyone. And I think that a lot of hopefully like companies will come out of this type of stuff. Like co-founder matching, I think is very great at these type of events because you
Yeah.
meet random people, right? And you
Yeah.
problem solve together. It's really a great and stimulating environment.
Yeah, and also because all of these hackathon actually have like a sponsor. You can get like a free credit
Oh,
from
cool. Yeah.
different sponsors. I get a lot of like Manus, they give me the credit, and a lot of the sponsor they will give you the credit to try the product.
Nice. Yeah, I'll definitely
Yeah.
have to check one out. I love hackathons, so the next one I'm gonna definitely sign up for because yeah, it's just a great way to get those critical thinking, problem solving, creative like skills practiced. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I want to switch gears now and talk a little bit about your community, the Tokyo
Yeah,
Design
sure.
community. So what made you kind of like come up with this idea to start this community and tell me a little bit about its journey so far?
Yeah, I started this last year September, so still very young, less than a year. The intention was quite straightforward because I was in my job hunting phase last year, and it took way longer than I thought. Yeah. So when I landed my job, I was thinking about maybe I can share my experience or help the other designer um, who are also proactively looking for new opportunities.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this is my intention. And also because I want to learn from the designers also in fintech industry.
Mhm.
So this kind of mentorship did help me. And I wanted just to advocate the design mentorship and build this, community where we have this entrepreneurial thinking and continue mentorship and also to build up to skill up your hard skill, like building up the portfolio
Mhm.
and how the hiring manager would prefer certain type of the candidate. That kind of thing is really important to share.
Absolutely. Those are all very valuable things that you're providing for the community. So, how many members did you start with? How many do you have now? And what's I guess, the plan for the community?
Yeah, so when I still remember the first event as like three, four people, including
Okay.
me.
Mhm.
And right now, we have over 600.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
and so we run events monthly,
Mhm.
and I will just keep doing that, running the event monthly. But in the future, we probably gonna do more workshop
Mm.
and trying the new tools or catch up the trend because some designer this day they will feel a little bit anxious in the era of AI. But
Mhm.
we really want to advocate what doesn't change, what really matter despite we're in the era of AI.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
like the hard skill, the as you mentioned about the product thinking and how you incorporate this bill of thinking into your design work.
If you think about it, how would your life be different without AI? Now that we have it,
Yeah,
eh, designers using it every single day.
yeah.
Imagine not having it. How would your life be different? It'd be complete.
Yeah, exactly. And also because you know, everyone was complaining about, oh, maybe Japan is like a little bit lagging behind compared with the other parts in the world. It's just a cliche talking from the people who just come to Japan, right? But I want to say we did have a lot of excellent designer work in Japan, Japanese company. And
Mhm.
I wanted just to expose them more so that people would know, okay, actually the product design is still advanced in Japan. It's not that lagging behind compared with the other areas in the world. Yeah.
And technology, like startups in this country are growing big time. There's a big push for it. And
Yeah,
it's great to see that, your community is growing as well and being a part of that. Absolutely.
yeah. And you can see a lot of like opportunities here as well.
Mhm. Hey, question for you. Where do you normally advertise your events? Like, where can people find Tokyo Design like events? Is it
Yeah,
mostly
we are on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So if you search the Tokyo Design on LinkedIn, you'll find us. And also, we have this monthly event Alliance in Meetup. This
Mhm.
is, but recently we added on Luma as well. So if you want to participate, event both on the Meetup, Luma, and follow us on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited. I'll definitely link all that in the description below so people can go to your next event. When is the next event, by the way?
Actually, like Sunday. So we have this design jam, and we invited to amazing product leader and also the great designer, the senior designer at Amazon to share their insights. But also because this is a design jam, and we're gonna use Lovable to try to build up the product in this
Oh,
3 hours. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, we're very yeah, because Lovable sponsor us but give all the participants a free coupon. So they will be able to explore how this, vibe coding tool could facilitate their design process.
That's amazing. Oh, wow. I'm super jealous. I'm actually leaving on vacation, but I would love to, go to that type of event because,
Yeah.
like, I want to learn how to vibe code because I've tried to play around with a few things, but, deploying the applications is the hard part, I think. Like you can make an application that's local on your computer, but getting it to be actually used is quite difficult. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, really understanding how to do that.
Yeah.
Cool. So where do you see this community going further? What are some goals that you have for Tokyo Design?
I think we just wanted to continue increasing the impact and bridging the Japanese designer to the outside world.
Hmm.
Because we already did that in our last events. We invited the designer in UK and also New York to share their experience and share how they actually work.
Hmm.
So that everyone inside Japan would know, okay, what is going on outside Japan and what we can learn from. And also the outside designer, they would know, okay, actually, the Japanese design community, it's like there's some heat, there's fire going on, and they would probably want to just to collect more when they visit Japan, or
Right.
if they're considering any of the opportunity in Japan.
That's really interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
really, really cool stuff. I have a question for you with regards to freelance designers. So, obviously freelance designers that, they can do some work with some startups and like other, types of organizations,
Yeah.
but do they ever work with like corporations and how would you advise, I guess, freelance designers who want to get their hands dirty in a little bit of UX design, but maybe don't have that kind of like, corporate background or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I think the freelance designer, they probably have the strengths as like they really know how to work with a client, and because they have been working more than one product, right?
Mhm.
Because they're a
Mhm.
freelance designer. If they are doing the freelance work, I think probably the startup project
Mhm.
would be more suitable for them
Mhm.
because they don't have to like optimizing, right? They
Mhm.
were just like building the product, usually from scratch. And when
Mhm.
it comes to building, like optimizing the product, I think the flow and the framework would pretty much be the same
I
as a
see.
designer who actually work in the corporation. It just really depends on the scope and the responsibility.
It's like with freelance designers, just same thing with like freelance developers. It can be hard to get momentum if you don't like have the right relationship. So maybe in your community you have a few freelance designers looking to get into that position, like
Yeah, and also I feel like some designer particularly chose the path of being the freelancer instead of to going to the corporation.
mm,
Because they
yeah.
were just like I guess sick of the same products very
Yep.
quickly. So I wanted just to juggle with different products.
Yep. Do you think there's like benefit to that? Like doing multiple different types of like kind of like job hopping if you were in one career, you go to another company to learn new problems, new skills, new types of things, or would you rather stay with like a company for a longer time and really innovate within the same company?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you would like to get out of from the job. For
Mm,
example, for me, I can really see the generalist and the specialist, the kind of role, right? In the corporation, it's more likely you're working as a specialist. So you
hmm.
just focus on this particular feature and or the domain you optimize. But as a freelancer, it's more likely you take full responsibility, not this one feature, right?
Hmm.
So you have to take care of the whole product and you gonna have this more responsibility, I would say.
Mm,
But if you really want to focus on one thing and you really wanted to dive in, and maybe this period, you can go to the corporation, go to a team where the UX maturity is relatively high and you can learn a lot.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
so it really depends.
Yeah, it's quite challenging to decide for sure. I always say like designers, product managers, they make really good entrepreneurs, people who want to start their own business after because they see things from an empathetic point of view, from the user's point of view, and that's what really takes to be a good entrepreneur. Have you ever thought of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, because as I mentioned, I participate in hackathon. So sometimes I would say, what if I continue working on my hackathon project? And what if we just release this hackathon project, the baby project, to something real, like you can download from the App Store? How cool it be, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, this is something I'm thinking about, but I would not call it as entrepreneurship at
Mm,
the moment. I would
mm.
just say this is my passion project or toy project.
Okay. Nice, nice.
Yeah, but in the future, who knows, when you continue doing the thing you have a passion about, it probably can become something great. It's hard to tell. But I
Yeah.
was feel I'm kind of like a passion driven and self driven person.
So, what is your dream outcome,
Dream outcome.
later on in life, 5 to 10 years? Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing?
I think it's so hard to imagine 5 and 10 years, but I would say my mom, she always want to use the product I design or I create.
Hmm.
So I would say maybe the ultimate goal for myself in 10 years, like my mom would be able to use something I create and she enjoy a lot.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And she promote my product to her friends. Yeah.
That'd be cool. That'd be the ultimate, right? Like, full circle moment, So that's awesome.
Exactly. And also you can see there are a lot of things kind of like emerging in the trend of the AI. There's a not like no more very clear boundary among a different sector.
Mhm.
So I think it's like just my imagination. In 10 years, probably we don't have the occupation as a UX designer, but something else. It's very
Oh,
likely.
any insights into what it might be?
Maybe just one person you can do the coding stuff by writing the prompts,
Uh,
and also you're taking care of to pulling the data to
uh,
analyze the data. Like all the three jobs become the one, probably.
I wonder what we would call that person, right? Because it's like
Yeah, because just
product designer, developer. Like, Right.
Yeah, because just thinking about just like 10 years ago, we don't have the UX designer. Like nobody know. Like back 20 years ago, who knows what is a UX designer? But the user-centric method is always here.
Hmm.
From Don Norman is always here, right?
Right.
And it's
Yep.
like decades ago. But people don't create it, didn't create the occupation as a UX designer, even though we have the design thinking or user-centric methodology.
Yeah, even product management, that wasn't a thing. Like at first it was like business analyst, then it turned into like product manager, and
Yeah.
now, yeah, like all these things change over time, and AI is going to has completely changed the world, and it's going to continue doing so. But people just need to adapt and like, embrace the technology in order to move forward.
Yeah,
And it seems like
exactly.
you're doing that very well.
Yeah, and also you can say like the product has been evolving a lot. For
Mhm.
example, if you ask me in college, I would not think about there will be the interface like Notion, right? Like to how
Mhm.
you take note, how you management your projects.
Mhm.
But right now, this becomes our new normal.
Mhm.
And also thinking about how you're gonna do or meeting it right. Previously, in my college time, I it really gave me the hard time to organize my notes. But right now we have a lot of like Gemini, they can have the like a meeting notes, right? And also the granola, the product like a granola can also easily to summarize the note. You don't have to take anything. So I would say in the future, they're going to be the merge of the occupations and also the product interface going to be very different from what we saw today, what we see today.
And then also the glasses, the XR glasses and stuff. What kind of
Yeah,
we might not even need computers anymore or our cell
exactly.
phones, for example. So,
Yeah, that remind me of the hackathon I participated in April. It's Vision Pro, sponsored by Apple. So I actually used the Vision Pro and to create the app. That was
oh,
amazing.
oh, wow, that sounds really cool. Yeah, I mean, like, what is the future going to be like? We don't know, but that's the joy of it, right? The learnings that we're all going to get from being in this time. It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Lindsay, it's been a really great discussion about, obviously design, UX design in particular, product design. Is there anything that we didn't speak about that you think we should have spoke about?
I would probably say like how people or how product people in Japan are catching up with, are looking for.
Mm,
Because I feel like based on my own experience in the past 5 years, 6 years, I definitely would feel more people are product driven. Because in the when I first came to Japan, very little people are actually talking about product or talking about building thing or talking about the user-centric. But right now, when in Japan, when you just talk to any designer or any product manager in the Japanese company, they will share a lot of the insights. So you can see the whole industry in Japan actually made a lot of progress. It's
mm,
not like that we are stuck. It's like
mm,
we are making progress.
mm.
Yeah. So I really want to highlight this point.
I totally agree. I think that especially with the big push towards like startups and stuff, we're going to see more and more of that type of methodology coming in here and
Yeah.
driving innovation forward. Hopefully with the new generation as well, different mindset, different thinking, an approach to things, I think will
Yeah,
differ.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. And we have a driving force here, right? With the Tokyo design community. So keep
Yeah, exactly.
moving. With your influence, I think that if you keep growing this community and making it bigger, like more and more of opportunities will be for people to get into design, get into product design and product management,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. And
Yeah.
I really love what you're doing. So I can't wait
Thank
to
you
come
so
to one
much.
of your events. I think maybe in September or something. I want to come to the next one.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And also I'm just thinking about in retrospect about all the events we hosted in the last 9, 10 months. I met a lot of very good product people, the designer and product manager, and even the startup entrepreneur, the founder. And all of them helped me to got deeper understanding of the product, what it means. And also by working on the real problem, like the application problem, a lot of people, like participants, they just told us how excited they are when they're in this workshop to work on the hands-on thing. Because at the end of the workshop, there's something they can show in their portfolio, and that is the purpose. And they try the new thing.
And like when you create something, take an idea and take it out, like and make it into an app. That's the most like fulfilling thing for somebody who's never done it before.
Yeah.
I remember when I did it when I was in the Antler Accelerator program a few years ago. I had an idea for a language learning app, and I worked all summer with a developer, and we actually made it, and I got to use it. And I was like, "This is
Wow.
incredible!" Right? This is such an amazing feeling. So I highly recommend people check out all the hackathons you mentioned because it really is a fulfilling feeling. And start playing around with Lovable and all those type of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Exactly.
Lindsay. We have a closing tradition on the podcast where the last guest will ask a question for you,
Yeah.
and you'll leave a question for the next guest. Are you ready for your question?
Yeah, sure.
Ready? Okay, cool. So, what do you believe is the right way of building products in Japan in the future?
I don't think there are too much different between Japan or the outside Japan. I think the method gonna be the universe, but the real difference is like the user. Who are the user you're gonna build the product for? For example, I did tons of the A/B test, not tons of, but a lot of A/B testing in my previous job.
Mhm.
And the different demography of the user, they will have a very different results.
Mhm.
And for the younger group, there's not so much difference in Japan or outside Japan. But there are certain of a group you really need to consider their different mental model when building the product.
Mm.
So in nutshell, I don't think there is any different way to build up the product. It's the same, but just like how you interpret the local user's needs.
Yeah, and Japan is a quite unique market in that sense where, a lot of like, for example, applications you see the interface will be completely different compared to like a
Yeah.
Western, type of interface.
Yeah.
So
But the
understanding.
Gen Z, you would say they got so used to those like a Western application or the website.
Mhm.
So in the future, I would say the gap would be narrow compared to where we are now.
That's good. That's good. I hope so.
Yeah.
All right, Lindsay, now it's your turn. Please leave a question for my next guest.
I will love something simple. What's your passion project at the
Oh,
moment? Yeah.
nice. So what's your passion project you're working on at the moment? I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Lindsay, it's been a really great conversation. We got to speak about a lot about what you're doing in design, your community, and I'm going to link all that below. If people wanted to contact you, what would be the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can do me LinkedIn or my email or just through the Tokyo Design community because me and my co-organizer always happy to respond any question. And if you have any idea about what kind of event you want us to host, just let us know. We'll be more than happy to do that.
Oh, I love it. They're the host with the most. I love it. That's awesome. All right. All right, Lindsay, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Need to have me. It was really great to talk with you.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Product Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like and subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps this channel grow. And if you are a product manager or a startup founder who wants to share your story or some of the struggles that you've gone through in your career, then definitely reach out to us. We'd love to have you on. And until next time, happy building, everyone.